What is up, everybody? My name is Blob and welcome back to another video on the channel. And in the background we have got a partially built sand cat habitat, and that is because I am a doofus and I didn't record. But then Karma decides that it was going to bite me in the caboose as well, and all of this foliage that you see me placing is going to be basically disappearing in just a few moments because the game crashed and I didn't save. But in the background there's literally just at the moment a rocky C-shaped formation where like I said, the sand cat is going to be residing, and the mesh wall that I've got, you see that everything just vanished because the game crashed on me. Been having a few problems with it recently, but hopefully I've been able to get it sorted. I didn't have any issues in the last sort of couple of days, so fingers crossed no more issues with that. But the mesh that you see there as well I end up getting rid of because I realized that guests could stick their fingers through and potentially get them nibbled by the sand cat. So that ends up changing, and I use the viewing that I used in the last episode for the links over this side as well. The two areas are quite separate from each other, so hopefully you wouldn't be able to notice any kind of repetition if you was taking a longer route around the sanctuary. And you'll probably notice from the length of this video, it's not going to be a particularly long one. The sand cats require so little space that there's no point in me elongating or dragging out a video the longer than it needs to for the sake of trying to meet a certain time length on the videos. But this is going to be me sort of dabbling in more deserty foliage. The caracal is going to be following suit to this animal shortly, but that's going to be after the halfway tour point. But the caracal is sort of going to follow this same kind of theme, but on a larger scale and with something a little bit more grandiose. This is a bit more tucked away. It's a bit difficult to explain whereabouts in the sanctuary this resides, but as you come from the second viewing point of the cheetahs and the walkway behind the restaurant, you sort of walk into this large, or not large, just semi-large open plaza area where you can go toward the lions, the cheetahs, and as you go toward the central gardens, the viewing window for the sand cats is on the way to the central gardens. And then there's a path that goes around the other side of the habitat that will take you past the central gardens if you don't want to walk through that. But yeah, that's hopefully I've done justice in explaining the layout and whereabouts this resides in the zoo. And even though I'm using different colours of foliage, the general foliage palette remains the same. We're talking things like buffalo grass, blue stems. I don't know what the name of them are called, but I think in the last update we had these really dry, dark, browny, black, spindly bushes, and they're really good for adding a little bit of difference in terms of colour for the habitat. Here you see me adding the viewing window in, and then I end up deleting the mesh one. Like I say, I sort of came to the conclusion that guests could potentially stick their fingers through and get them bitten. I'm a little bit worried though about the sand cats because they're considered shy with guests, so I'm a little bit paranoid and worried that guests might spook the sand cats. But if that is something that is going to start happening, I will simply just place a one-way window in there instead. But we won't know until I end up putting them in and give it a sort of a bit of extensive testing with the guests in the sanctuary at some point. And the tour is well on track to coming at the end of this month, start of March. And I've been doing a lot of work to make sure that the sanctuary is going to be in a position that is going to be presentable and deserving of you guys seeing it at that point. The only thing that may potentially not be done is the custom graphics for the screens, but I'm trying to get the screens in the correct place just so that at least when I'm going around you can see the intent on where signage would be. But basically after this habitat we are literally going to be doing the central gardens, and then I'm going to be doing some neatening up, and then I can drop the tour to you on where we're at. Then after that we've got the other 6 cats. We are going to have the caracal, both tiger species. We've got the snow leopard, the clouded leopard, and something else. I feel like I'm forgetting something. The jaguar, of course, the jaguar. So yeah, that's going to be the 6 that are going to be remaining after this is done. And I cannot wait to bring you some of those. I've got some really cool ideas, especially for things like the tigers and the snow leopards. Those two are going to have some really cool ideas that I cannot wait to bring to you. But yeah, in contrast to what you're seeing in the background here with regards to the sand habitat, there isn't really much I could do with this. I didn't really want to make this huge sprawling habitat for an animal that is basically as small as my pinky finger's nail. They are incredibly small. I never realized until I actually put one down when trying to sort of get an idea of space and stuff like that. But they are absolutely tiny, so I'm kind of glad I didn't make this habitat any bigger, because it really would have been pointless, because the time that you would have spent seeing them would have been absolutely minimal. But the habitat holds all of the amenities that it needs. It's got the outdoor viewing area for them. Again, they're never going to be forced indoors unless there's a reason that they will be kept indoors. And the indoor area itself is relatively basic. We've got the Indonesia stone pieces that I end up changing to a sort of a dark grey, and then add like a slanted roof to it as well, just so that it's not too square and big, just to sort of keep the size in perspective. And then a bit of foliage wrapping around the area where the path is going to avoid the central gardens. And originally I wasn't going to do this pathway that avoids the central gardens, but I sort of came to the conclusion, as a hay fever sufferer myself, if you're someone that's perhaps quite susceptible to things like pollens and such like thing, the last thing you want to be doing is walking through a garden that is going to be triggering all sorts of allergies and such. And to be honest, a garden just simply might not interest you. You know, maybe you've come here for the fauna rather than the foliage. So, and again, I would respect that. So I've added this second path in just so that it gives people a way around to avoid the garden. And I might even slap a shop or something on the side of the path, just to give someone, just to fill it in with something, so it's not just a sprawling walk with more foliage, because that's the only way that I can transition these habitats from one to another. And at that point, you might as well just walk through the gardens themselves. So I don't really want to be creating an alternate path to walking through a gardens by then giving you a path that goes through more gardens and foliage. It just seems kind of counterintuitive to me. But let's get into some sand cat facts. That's right, I had to pad this video with something, so why not pad it with some facts about these adorable little creatures. Now, anyone that's played this game will know that sand cats don't actually meow, they bark like dogs, and they don't actually make many sounds, but when they do, it's not a sound that you would expect to hear from a sand cat. When it's taking a break from its solitary lifestyle and looking for a mate, the sand cat uses mews and bark-like vocalizations as a mating call. The sounds have been likened to a high-pitched rasp of small dogs like sort of chihuahuas and that sort of thing, because typically there are great distances between individual sand cats, and these mating calls are louder than meows. And of course, being called sand cats, they live in some pretty harsh ecosystems on this planet. The daytime temperatures where they live can reach sort of 115 degrees Fahrenheit or 46 degrees Celsius in the warmer months, and can plummet to as low as minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 31 degrees Celsius on cold nights. That is absolutely insane. And along with this, obviously being in deserts, it means that things like water are quite hard to come by, but they're able to get all of their hydration from the prey that they hunt, which is pretty cool as well. So despite their small size, they are actually able to survive some of the harshest conditions on this planet. So size shouldn't be underestimated when it comes to the sand cats for sure. But that is going to be it for the sand cat facts. You can see here I am just freeing up the space. This is where the keepers are going to be able to walk through up to the mesh fence there. And this path is the one that's going to wrap around to where the caracals are going to be. But they're not going to be in the sanctuary for a little while yet. I think the caracals are kind of the only one I don't really have a plan for as of yet. I don't really have a plan for the clouded leopards just yet either, but luckily they're going to be toward the end of this, I think, the clouded leopards. The caracals are going to be a bit sooner. I don't really have an order as of yet as to what is going to be going in what place. I think it's going to depend on how I lay the paths out after this central gardens, really, more than anything else. There's going to be quite a lot of heavy terrain work on the second part of this as well, just to bring the whole sanctuary down, because I want it to sort of like be built on a slope incline. So this entrance area where everything's built so far is going to be the higher bit, and then as you go back toward the back of the sanctuary, it's going to be taking some not drastic dips, but it is going to be slanting downward a bit more. But that is going to be me for this episode. I'm going to leave you with the rest of the video and the time lapse in the background, or the speed build in the background. Apologies that it is a shorter video, but the next one is probably going to be a little bit longer because the gardens are going to be quite the undertaking. I hope you all have a great week, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye bye.